Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada.
Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada.
Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Gurudev, Jaya Jaya Gurudev.
Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Gurudev, Jaya Jaya Gurudev.
Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol.
Nityai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nityai Gaura Hari Bol.
Harinama Sankirtan ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Purandarar Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. All glories to assembled devotees. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. So today we will be discussing from Canto 5, Chapter 11, entitled Jada, Bharata, Instructs, Rahūgana. Today will be verse number 17. Anyone wants to recite this verse and purport? Any volunteers?
Harish Roj, can I read?
Yes, Mataji, please, Mataji.
Srimad Bhagavatam 5.11.17. Bhratravyam enam tad adabhraviryam upekshayadheditam apramattaha. Gurur Haresh Charano Pasanastro Jiha Velikam Swayam Atma Mosham. Translation purport by His Divine Grace is Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation: this uncontrolled mind is the greatest enemy of the living entity. If one neglects it or gives it a chance, it will grow more and more powerful and will become victorious. Although it is not factual, it is very strong. It covers the constitutional position of the soul. O King, please try to conquer this mind by the weapon of service to the lotus feet of the spiritual master and of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Do this with great care. Purport: there is one easy weapon with which the mind can be conquered: neglect. The mind is always telling us to do this or that. Therefore, we should be very expert in disobeying the mind's orders. Gradually, the mind should be trained to obey the orders of the soul. It is not that one should obey the orders of the mind. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakura used to say that to control the mind, one should beat it with shoes many times just after awakening and again before going to sleep. In this way, one can control the mind. This is the instruction of all the Shastras. If one does not do so, one is doomed to follow the dictations of the mind. Another bona fide process is to abide strictly by the orders of the spiritual master and engage in the Lord's service. Then the mind will be automatically controlled. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has instructed Srila Rupa Goswami, Brahmanda Brahmite Kona Bhagyavan Jiva Guru Krishna Prasade Paya Bhakti Lata Bija. When one receives the seed of devotional service by the mercy of the Guru and Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one's real life begins. If one abides by the orders of the spiritual master, by the grace of Krishna, he is freed from service to the mind. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 5th canto, 11th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled Jada Bharata Instructs King Rahūgana. Hare Krishna Prabhuji, thank you.
Thank you very much, Mataji. Hare Krishna. So we'll offer our prayers before starting the class. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tado Jayamudire Nashta Prayesha Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Sloke Bhakti Bhavati Naishtaki Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nanda Gopa Kumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha. Om Ajnanatimarandasya Jnananjana Shalake Chakshurumitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamhayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utapatakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Pradan Sahagana Lita Shri Vishakanitam Shar He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusude Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpatarvascha Kripa Sindhu Bevacha Patitana Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Nityamane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desatarine Mugam Karoti Vachalam Pangun Langete Girimitpatamante Shri Gurum Dinatarinam Paramananda Madham Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavranda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. My humble obeisances to all assembled Vaishnavis, and I am not qualified, but still as a part of service and for my own purification, whatever is my understanding, I will share in these discussions on these verses. So we are discussing, almost we have come to the last section of chapter number 11, where Jada Bharata is instructing King Rahūgana. So we know Jada Bharata, he was in very elevated Paramahamsa stage. He was carrying the palanquin, and when the palanquin was disturbed while carrying, King Rahūgana chastised him. So at that time, seeing the reply of Jada Bharata, he understood that he is not a normal person, he is a very elevated sadhu. So then King Rahūgana asked many questions related to self-realization, Krishna consciousness. Then Jada Bharata, he is replying to King Rahūgana about enlightenment, subjects on enlightenment. In that section, we are coming to the last section here today, 17th. Today is 17th. With this chapter is getting concluded. Then we go to the 12th chapter, where it is between again, continuing different section. Again, it's again conversation between Maharaja Rahūgana and Jada Bharata. That is again further inquiries. That is the next chapter. More deeper inquiries, which King Rahūgana places before Jada Bharata. So today, on verse number 17, it's talking about how to conquer our mind. It's a very, very important thing, very psychological thing. Krishna dedicates, as in the 6th chapter, how to conquer this mind in Bhagavad Gita. He says, whatever we are today experiencing, the pain or pleasure, psychologically it is because of the mind. So Krishna says, a controlled mind is a friend for the soul, whereas an uncontrolled mind is an enemy of the soul. So very, very important point. The whole spiritual life we are taking is to handle this mind in a proper way, to control this mind. Whatever we are doing, the sadhana, this is aiming at controlling the mind. So that is very important to understand. For example, the tongue wants to taste anything and everything, but we are restricting through because the mind desiring to taste through the tongue. So then we are controlling it by Krishna consciousness, by offering and accepting prasadam. Like that, if you see everything, the mind, we are trying to control through Krishna consciousness. So whatever in between the Atma and the Supreme Lord Krishna, what is the barrier? What is the challenge we are facing? That is because of the uncontrolled mind. And here, very beautifully, Jada Bharat instructs King Rahūgana how to control this mind. He's giving some practical tips. How to control this uncontrolled mind. It is said in the scriptures also, in not only in our Vedic scriptures, in all, whether you take in Quran or you take in Bible, controlling mind is very much stressed in all the scriptures. It is said that person who has controlled his mind is greater than the person who has conquered the entire world. So somebody has conquered the entire world. Still, if a person has conquered his mind, he is greater than the person who has conquered the entire world. That means we can understand the significance of a sadhu or paramahamsa because they have already conquered the mind. It is very challenging for a common man to control his mind because the mind is so subtle and so powerful also. Arjuna itself who puts this question, then Asamshayam, Arjuna is telling that it is very chanchalami mana Krishna pramadi palavatadam. And Krishna also is saying Asamshayam mahabhavu. Yes, without doubt, controlling mind is very difficult. If Krishna itself telling it is difficult, then we have to understand how much it should be difficult. So Krishna also, the Supreme Lord also agrees, yes, controlling mind is very difficult. But Krishna says it is possible by vairagya and practice. So here we see some of the practical tips how we can control our uncontrolled mind. So our same Bhagavad Gita statement, this uncontrolled mind is the greatest enemy of the living entity. So if at all we have an enemy, it is not actually outside. Sometimes we are always seeing that this person is my enemy, this relative is my enemy, in the company, my colleague is my enemy. Actually, they are all not very actual enemies. The actual enemy is lying within us, and that is uncontrolled mind. So the greatest enemy for a living entity is uncontrolled mind. If one neglects it, that we don't care about controlling the mind, we don't give any training, then what happens? Or if you give an opportunity for the mind to fulfill whatever it desires, it will grow more and more powerful and become victorious. So we have to understand the subtle working of the mind. If you don't get this training, like if you don't read this Bhagavatam, if you don't chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, what happens? That means you are neglecting the mind. That means you are not taking any effort to control the mind, or you want give the opportunity, whatever the mind says, you keep on fulfilling its desire. What will happen? It will grow more and more powerful and it will become victorious. This is a very, very important point. You have to understand that for enjoying this material world, there is no need for any training. Everybody knows how to enjoy this material world. As soon as we get some money, as soon as we get some free time, immediately the mind, without any training, it will plan for some material enjoyment. Okay, let us go here, let us go to this restaurant, or let us go for this outing. Automatically, the mind will plan. No need to go for any training session. How to enjoy this material world? Like that, there is no need for training. But if you want to control that mind, we need training. That is this Srimad Bhagavatam. That's why Prabhupada is telling we should not neglect it. Neglect it means we should not leave the mind as it is, without taking any special attention to control it. So for controlling the mind, we need Guru, Sadhu, Shastra, we need regular training, regular practice like that. So as we are taking bath every day to clean our mind, if you want to control our mind also, we need to have constant practice every day so that the mind will be always under our control. So although it is not factual, it is very strong. So the mind is very subtle, but everybody, whatever actions you are seeing in this world, it is all because it is very strong. Now you see the world is facing a big war in Israel and Palestine. How did this originate? It is because the terrorists, their mind, there is a thought that let us go and attack Israel. So that thought manifested into action, and now it has become a very big disaster. That is the power of the mind. You can see everything was going quiet, but it has been aggravated because of an uncontrolled mind. It covers the constitutional position of the soul. This mind It is like a, as I said, Krishna is there, the Jivatma is there. In between, you can consider it is like a wall. Why we are not able to perceive Krishna? Because this uncontrolled mind is like a wall between the Jivatma and the Paramatma. Within us also, within the Jivatma and Paramatma, even though they are within the same body, residing in the same body, you know from Bhagavad Gita, Upadrishta Anumanta Cha, Bharata, Bhokta, Maheshwara. Along with the Jivatma, there is Paramatma, but we do not recognize or realize it because the Atma and Paramatma, there is a wall in between that is called this uncontrolled mind. So King Jada Bharata is instructing the king Rahūgana, O king, please try to conquer this mind. How do we conquer this mind? He is giving the first tip by the weapon of service to the lotus feet of the spiritual master and to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So it is like a parallel train, parallel tracks. A train runs on the two tracks. So both one track is actually the service to the spiritual master. One track is actually the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is the only option. There is no other shortcut or there is no other secret to control the mind except this. Okay. So it is said in the scriptures from outside, we can control the mind through three ways. From externally, by controlling our food, whatever food we have to take, the prasadam. That is one way how we can control the mind. Second is actually pranayama, by regulating the breathing. That's why many spiritual organizations, they teach how to breathe. The more you breathe deeper, the mind becomes controlled. And when the mind is uncontrolled, our breathing becomes very rapid and fast. You see somebody is getting angry, you can see he's breathing very fast. So one is by taking prasad outside, through external outside way. Second is by regulating our breathing, which is done by yoga practices. And third is by following celibacy or brahmacharya. By these practices, externally, we can conquer the mind. But more powerful is actually the weapon of service. If you are serving the lotus feet of the spiritual master, lotus feet of spiritual master means we know how we are serving the lotus feet of spiritual master, either by Vapu or Vani. Vapu means physical service, and Vani means when you serve the spiritual master through his instructions. That's why in Krishna consciousness is very much stressed that you take shelter or initiation. Because when you get shelter or initiation, you are automatically, you are actually committed to the spiritual master to follow his instruction. Because the spiritual master at the time of shelter or initiation, he gives instruction that you should follow 16 rounds of Hare Krishna Mahamantra chanting. We should follow the fasting on Ekadasi. We should read scriptures and follow the 4 regulative principles. That is the service. That is Vani. And again, if you get a chance to associate with spiritual master, you can always serve him by means physically also. That weapon of service will help us to conquer this mind. And parallel, another track is serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead by offering him bhoga, by chanting his holy names, by hearing his Vani. But by all these means, the unconquerable mind gradually becomes conquered. That's what Krishna is saying. Two things, Vairagya and practice. Vairagya means we should not have any hope that we can have enjoyment in this world. Anytime, anything can happen in this world. Even though we may have so much of power, so much of wealth, still there is no surety or security that we can be happy in this world. First of all, there is no happiness in this world. Only the mind is imagining for some temporary happiness. But actually, there is no happiness. So that is Vairagya. Once we are very strong, established in Vairagya, then we have to practice the sadhana. By these two processes, then we get purified, or the mind gets controlled. For example, this Vairagya is compared to the diet. Vairagya. So if somebody is having a sugar complaint, is affected by sugar, the doctor advises that you should refrain from sweets. So that is Vairagya. Vairagya means we don't attempt to enjoy more and more in this material world. That is Vairagya. That is implemented in Krishna consciousness by following the 4 regulative principles. That is Vairagya. And you have to take the medicine to keep your insulin in balance. So that medicine is actually chanting the holy name. Often our mind is always contemplating that, the other side looks green. Now somebody is in India, he is always thinking like, if I go abroad, he thinks our life is good there. So people come to Middle East for earning money. But after coming here also, we are not experiencing happiness. So people still think that if I go to Europe or America, I can be more happy. So then people try to migrate there because the grass on the other side looks always green. So then they go there. After going there, they experience the same problem there also. Then now people are trying to go to Mars. People are trying to go to Moon from America. Why? Because they know that here I'm not experiencing the real happiness. So we should always understand the grass on the other side always looks green. So in any place in this material world, Krishna already says, Abrahma Bhuvana Loga Punaravartina Arjuna. Dukkhalayam Ashashvatam. Krishna is saying that starting from Brahmaloka up to the Patala Loka, the 14 planetary system in this material universe, everywhere there is misery of birth and death. So nowhere we can be happy here. Whatever position we are, we have a very good family, we have very good security by having good amount of material wealth. Still there is no surety. If you read the news every day, we know how people are suffering day to day, even though they are well placed in the material society. So, and Jada Bharata also is saying that do this with great care. So we all know these instructions from Krishna consciousness, we should control the mind, but again, we should do it with very great care because anytime we can fall down. That is the problem when we are actually doing the sadhana. If you are a little bit inattentive, little bit we are giving leniency to this mind. With that one thing, it can actually make a great fall in spiritual life. Same thing Krishna also repeats that out of these 5 senses, you have controlled the 4 senses. One sense wants something. Suppose you have controlled all the senses. And like our one sense, we want always we are addicted to good fragrance or something. Then, slowly by that one weakness, all other senses also will be dragged. Example I'm saying. So even one sense is going out of control, it can drag the entire other senses or it can make our mind uncontrolled. That's why this warning is given. Do this with great care. Great care means if you are always in good association with devotees, we are always protected. So that is one important point, and we should not be very careless, or we should not be like very casual approach with the mind. It is always very dangerous that it can make us fall at any time. So one time when Srila Prabhupada was praying, his disciples asked that, Srila Prabhupada, what you are praying to the Lord? Prabhupada said, I am praying that I should never fall as a victim to Maya. Then the disciples asked Prabhupada, Prabhupada, you are in Paramahamsa stage. No, why you should pray like that? He said, no. In whatever stage we are, we should be always careful because the mind is very chanchalam, it is very... So that's why even when people practice spiritual life, after some point of time, if they are not careful, the mind will pull them down to some materialistic engagements. So it is easy to say, but it is difficult that we should be very careful. But if you constantly pray for strength to the Guru and the Lord, they will actually protect. If our desire is that we should always be protected from Maya, then Krishna definitely, he will fulfill, he will protect us if you pray. So prayers are always powerful. And the mood we are always having, that will also help us. The humility, the humble mood. So very, very important point where Jada Bharata is giving beautiful instruction to King Rahūgana, very practical insights. He's saying how to conquer this mind. He's giving two side. What is that? He's giving 2 steps formula. One is you have to serve the lotus feet of the spiritual master. That may be by either Vapu or Vani. And parallelly, you should also serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is the process of Krishna consciousness. The whole Krishna consciousness, actually, the practice is summarized in this verse, in this last two lines of this translation. The conquer the mind is by weapon of service. Always, if you are eager to do some service for the Guru and some service for the Lord, then the mind is always engaged. So it is very, very important. And we'll go to Srila Prabhupada's purport. There is one weapon with which the mind can be conquered. Prabhupada is giving little more explanation. He's telling neglect. Neglect means we should ignore. See, the mind may prompt with so many desires for enjoyment. That is natural for the mind. So neglecting means we have to neglect. We should ignore because we know that we are not the mind. We are spirit soul. The mind is not part of us. We are not the mind. So the mind is giving us so much desires, we should not identify that with the mind that, oh, I am desiring. No, the mind is desiring and we should neglect. So this we can compare to a tsunami. Tsunami, or we can say a tornado. It is said that when the tornado comes, we have no solution except you have to remain wherever you are. Silently, you have to stay in that place. The tornado will come. It will pass you without harming you much. If you are situated in a safe place, don't try to run here or there, but the tornado will pass away. So like that, the psychologists are analyzing that there will be, when you are practicing spiritual life, so many desires will come in between. It is called like surfing. What we have to do, we have to stay calm. We should not, at that time, it will become like a tornado. It will come with full force. But if you ignore it, neglect it, then as the tornado will pass after some time. If the tornado keeps on moving, then from that place, it will move to another place. So at that time, if you are calm without acting on the desire, then the desire will die. Very simple thing to understand. Like we are fasting. The moment we start fasting, after 2-3 hours, we get severe hunger. But we are getting so hunger, immediately if you take something, what happens? Then the mind will ask for more. But if you subside, if you don't heed to that hunger, after 2 hours, again it will come, but not with same force. The force will reduce. Then again, after 3 hours, the force will still reduce. That's why sometimes people are able to have 2-3 days also fasting, because that hunger will come with great force in the beginning time. But as you are not giving food, what happens? Second time, third time, fourth time, the force will decrease. Same way with any material desires, it always comes with great force for the mind. But if you neglect it, slowly, the force will come down, and slowly the mind will lose the power in the battle. So that is why it is said that the more we have willpower, the easier the mind can be conquered. So we know Ekadasi time, we will not take for this one, Navadanya. No? So even though the mind will tempt, if the willpower is strong, then we are able to fast on that day. Sometimes, and Pandava Nirjal Ekadasi also, we have already resolved, we have taken the resolution that yes, I will fast without water. So we are able to do that. Same thing if you implement, when we neglect the mind, when it's giving so much innumerable material desires, slowly the desires will become weak and weak. But on the other hand, if you try to fulfill those desires will become stronger and stronger. That's how we form a bad habit. Because every time somebody goes for drinking, suppose liquor, every time the mind will ask for liquor, we go and fulfill, the desire becomes stronger and stronger, then he becomes addicted to that habit, and no more he can control. The mind has already taken control of that person. Either any bad habit, if you see, either it is smoking or drinking or any kind of material desires, the more you satisfy those desires, the desires will become stronger and stronger, and finally it will overtake the soul. But the more you neglect the mind, the desires will become weaker and weaker, and easily the mind will become very light like a cotton. So Prabhupada writes here, the mind is always telling us to do this or that. See, when we are even chanting, we are experiencing this. The mind is always planning for many things. What I will do tomorrow, what I should do this. It is always telling us to do this or that. Therefore, we should be very expert in disobeying the mind's order. So this is our sadhana. When the mind is prompting with various things to do, we should actually be expert in disobeying the mind's order. We should neglect it. Then the mind will not stop naturally telling so many things. Gradually, because it is not instantly, the word Prabhupada is using very carefully, gradually. Because it is not a one-day exercise. It is not a 1 month exercise. It is not a 1 year exercise. It is a lifetime exercise to handle this mind. But before our death, we should make sure that our mind is under fully control. Then only we can think about Krishna. So gradually the mind should be trained. Trained means systematic way every day by doing the spiritual practices to obey the orders of the soul. So what is the orders of the soul? Is to serve the spiritual master and the Supreme Lord. It is not that one should obey the orders of the mind. It is not that one should obey the orders of the mind. So Prabhupada is referring how is Guru Maharaj, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur instruction on how to handle the mind. So he used to say that to control the mind, one should beat it with shoes many times and just awakening and before going to sleep. So how to understand this? How to beat the mind with the shoes? So we do not know, first of all, where is this mind? It is within our body. It is pervaded throughout our body as consciousness. How to beat it with shoes means Literally, we cannot take a shoe and beat the mind. So what Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj is explaining, beating the mind with shoes means beating with spiritual instructions, with Guru's instruction. The more we give this spiritual instruction, that is called actually beating it with shoes many times. Means we should be very harsh with the mind, not giving any leniency or not giving any mercy to the mind by spiritual instruction. That is called beating the mind with shoes. In this way, one can control the mind. This is the instruction of all Shastras. As I said, not only in Vedic scriptures, even in other holy scriptures, controlling the mind is given very much emphasis. That's why there is fasting. If you see, fasting is there in all religions, not only in our Vedic culture. Fasting is there in all religions. Charity is there. Early morning prayers are there in every religion. No, morning prayers start at 3:30, 4 o'clock. Because this is how we can control our mind. If one does not do so, if somebody will neglect it without taking all these instructions seriously, one is doomed to follow the dictations of mind. Then we become a victim of our mind. And the mind normally will always take us towards this materialistic world, and it may take us towards hell also. Because Krishna says in Bhagavata, lust, anger, and greed, these are the three gates to hell. Where there's a lust, anger, and greed reside, it's residing in the mind. So if we don't regulate it and we don't purify it, it will definitely take us to the lower planetary system. And Prabhupada writes here, another bona fide process is to be able to strictly abide by the orders of the spiritual master and engage the Lord service. That's why again I am saying, when we get the spiritual master order, when we get initiation, we give the promise to the spiritual master that throughout my life, I will follow the 4 regulative principles and I will actually chant 16 rounds of Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So that commitment we are giving. So that commitment will follow us throughout the life because we have already promised to the spiritual master. So that is also one of the way how we can handle our mind. So very important in this Krishna consciousness process. One physical guru is very important because we are giving commitment in front of him, in front of all Vaishnavas, that we'll follow this throughout the life. So as long when we are practicing these spiritual practices, parallelly we should try to develop ourselves, and when the opportunity comes, we should take initiation from the spiritual master so that our mind will always stick to this process. Otherwise, the mind may give a lot of excuses. Then the mind will be automatically controlled. Prabhupada also quotes Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's instruction to Srila Rupa Goswami, Brahmande Brahmite Kona Bhagyavan Jeev Guru Krishna Prasade Paya Bhakti Lata Beach. So when one receives the translation of these verses, when one receives the seed of devotional service, by the mercy of Guru and Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one's real life begins. So actual life begins when one is getting the seed of devotional service by the mercy of Guru and Krishna. After getting that mercy, the real life begins. Till that time, we are only having a relative life or kind of temporary life, we can say. Just we do not know who am I, what is my duty, all those things we do not know. Before coming to Krishna consciousness, we are thinking, I am this body and my family is all my goal. To satisfy them is their life. And we begin and working only to satisfy our family members. But when we become old, all the family members turn against us. Then we are thinking, oh, I have given my entire life to them. But now they are against me. What should I do now? My life has gone. There is no more energy in my body. There is no more strength. There is no more this one. Then we think that my life has become a failure. But if one will take Krishna consciousness, what happens? He serves the Lord very nicely. He takes care of his family. He serves the Guru also nicely. Even in the family, will not take care properly. We know that I have executed my dharma properly. Whatever comes, let Krishna now give whatever to me. I will happily accept it. So that is very important. The spiritual life is very important. Otherwise, material life normally ends in frustration and failure. So if one abides by the orders of the spiritual master, by the grace of Krishna, he is free from the service to the mind. Either we have to control the mind, or we have to be, there's a saying that either rule the mind or the mind will rule you. Either one thing only will happen. Not both things will not happen. Either you rule the mind or the mind will rule you. So we have to know that we have to rule the mind by taking spiritual practices very seriously. So we know that Katha Upanishad also says that our body is compared to like what is it? Like a chariot. The body is like a chariot, the five senses are like five horses, and the spiritual instructions we are giving, it is like the four regulative principles are like the blinders. If you see the horse, they put some shield around the eyes, because otherwise the horse will be distracted on the path. A horse may run here and there. So they will, if you see any chariot with the horse, they're called blinders. Blinders means around the two eyes, they will put like a shield. So the horse does not see left or right. The horse only can see the road. So like that, these four regulative principles help us. The four regulative principles and this chanting of Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, it is that focusing on the road, path, back home, back to God, on the road. And that mind is compared to the reins. The horse, even though if you have that rope which is tied to the horse nose, then also the horse can run here or there. So that mind is very important. And the intelligence is the chariot driver. So the chariot driver will be very strong. He will pull the reins, control the mind, and the passenger in the chariot is the soul. So if the soul wants to go to the proper destination, it is said that human life is a great opportunity to go back to home, back to God. Durlabham Manusha Janmam. So in that life, the goal of that living entity in the human form of life is actually to go back to home, back to God. So if at all we want to go to the right destination, then the horses should be controlled by the reins, by the intelligence should be very strong, willpower should be very strong. That Eke hai Kurunandana. What Krishna says, we should be focusing that Krishna consciousness is the ultimate goal. So we should have very strong determination to practice that. And if we have that kind of mindset, then the intelligence becomes very strong. We have strong willpower. Having the strong willpower, we know that serving the Lord and spiritual master is the ultimate goal. That's why in Krishna consciousness, we see that some people, after taking initiation, they become very serious. For them, they know that this is my life and soul. There is no other second instruction. There is no other turning back. Whatever I have in material things, let me preserve it for my maintenance of my body and family members. But my main mission is to execute this Krishna consciousness. They don't care that whether their material life is success or failure, because they know success in spiritual life is more important than success in material life. So they give their entire karmana manasa vacha, their activities, body and mind in the service of the Lord and the spiritual master, Guru. Then we see that their whole life is getting transformed into a very successful life. They are able to preach this message in a very nice way. They are able to bring many more souls to the lotus feet of Krishna. So that sacrifice, if somebody is taking, then they can relish the real higher taste, the happiness in Krishna consciousness. So that kind of mindset we have to cultivate. This mindset is very important. Without having this mindset, we cannot have success. We know that very famous example. The elephant is also having a mindset that when the elephant is as a baby, they put a chain around the leg. So when the elephant grows very big, that chain is nothing for the elephant. It can easily break away. But it is still thinking that if you go to the temple, you can see one leg, the chain is always there. The elephant is still thinking that I cannot move because of this chain. So similarly, our mind is having a mindset, material mindset, is thinking that, oh, I cannot follow this instruction. If I take this life, maybe my material life will be affected. So like that, the mind is having certain mindset. As long as we maintain that mindset, we cannot develop spiritually. We should break that mindset. Whatever Krishna, if you take Krishna consciousness very sincerely and seriously, Krishna will help. And our material life also will go in a proper way. That mindset, if somebody has, then immediately he can progress quickly. That's why Prabhupada, one time, one disciple asked, like Sarvadharman Pariteja, like how many lifetime it will take to surrender to Krishna? Prabhupada said, no, not 1 minute is enough. You did not read Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada is asking. Sarvadharman Pariteja, Mamekam Sharanam Raja. Krishna is giving the guarantee, Aham Tvam Sarva Papebhyo. I will relieve you from all sinful reactions. So it is only our mindset which is actually preventing us from complete surrender. But somebody will take that and surrender, Krishna immediately will relieve him from all the sinful reaction. Aham Tvam Sarva Papebhyo Mokshe Isami Master. So that is the challenge we have in front of us in the spiritual life. Our mindset and our conditioning, whatever we had, our past life conditioning will be there. So we should make sure that we take this process very seriously, and by the instructions of Srimad Bhagavatam, and by the instructions of order of Guru, we execute this very sincerely, so that our mind becomes controlled, and the my mind becomes our friend. In that way, we can relish the higher taste, and we can also serve the Lord in a very loving and devotional way, where the Lord gets pleased by our service. Yashmin tushte jagat tushtam samsiddhir haritoshanam. When the Lord becomes pleased and happy, then our life also becomes happy and successful. Hare Krishna. So it's a very, very important topic. I feel that because it is discussing on the controlling the mind, that's why it take a little more time. And also is the end of this 11th chapter in 5th canto. So I think then tomorrow we can start the fresh chapter, chapter 12. Further inquiries by Maharaj Rahūgana and Jada Bharat. So it's we can continue, I think, tomorrow on this. So any devotees, please feel free to express your realizations, comments, and if you have any questions, please feel free to ask that also. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Last week we are hearing, studying, listening to the Bhakti Shastri. So it says that the mind is always say to enjoy, to do this, to do this.
Yes, yes.
So we have to tolerate, means we have to don't try to complete that desire. You have to
Yes.
tolerate that one.
Correct, correct.
So that is the only the solution for that one.
Yes, because it is like Prabhupada said, like itching sensation. No, you have to tolerate, otherwise it aggravates. So the more we try to satisfy the mind, that desire becomes stronger.
Yeah.
Simple example, we can relate, Prabhu. Somebody wants to smoke, he smoke 1 cigarette, 2 cigarette, then he become a chain smoker, right, Prabhu?
Yeah.
But nobody becomes a chain smoker immediately. No, first they start with 1, 2, 3, 4 like that. So because every time they fulfill the desire, then the mind wants more and more. Then one time they become addicted. Addicted, then it goes beyond the control. Then they go for some time treatment, no? Secret is when the mind is asking to fulfill any material desire, the more you ignore, the desire becomes weaker. The more we try to satisfy the desire, it becomes stronger. So that's the formula for mind called ever fed, never satisfied. Ever fed, never satisfied. Never fed, ever satisfied. So that I think the more we follow that, then we can, as you said, Prabhu, we can handle the mind.
Also, Prabhu, just like the difference between the Vaidya Sadhana Bhakti and the Aganika Bhakti, explain that. So as per the Guru, we are doing 16 round, and that is by all because of Guru said, means we have a external inspiration. So that is what. So by doing this, gradually doing this, we can get to the Aganika Bhakti. It is means it will be from internal. That should be the means the sincerity will be there.
Naturally, it means to say naturally.
Yeah. Otherwise, it is not.
Artificially we cannot do.
Yeah, that's problem. Yeah.
Yes, artificially we cannot do. Artificially, if you do for some days, you can do, but after that, difficult. No, correct? No.
Yes,
so it will become difficult.
Yeah.
So, any devotees further they want to discuss any points on today's verse? Okay. So, if there are no further discussions, I think we can wind up today's session. Prabhu, you can wind up today's session, right?
Yes, Prabhu.
Okay. So, we will have evening today. Evening Chaitanya Charitamrita class. Vice Grace Chaitanya Chandra Prabhu. Evening 7 p.m. local time. So whoever free they can join the class. Hare Krishna. So Vancha Kalpataripascha Kripa Sindhu Vyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Ananta Kodi Vaishnavarthi ki jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Guru Maharaj ki jai.
Yeah.
Ananta Kodi Vaishnava ki jai. All glories to assembled devotees. Hare Krishna.
Great Shivagana Prabhu ki jai. Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you,
So much,
Prabhupada.
Guruji.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare
Thank you,
Krishna.
Guruji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you all. Hare Krishna.